Oh, there we are. All right, I just sent you an invite, Joe. So tonight we're going to be going over more of the American Bass Anglers, the ABA stuff of bouncing checks, but I have Joe Durham's going to be here tonight. He's representing the people that have checks bounced, and now we found out too that we got, there was a boat given away, and that certificate is basically fraudulent, but I'm going to let Joe tell all of that. All right, Joe, I sent you an invite, or you can go in and request to come in, and then I'll tell you how to come on. Before Joe gets in here, I want to thank everybody, Waterland Sunglasses and Powerhouse Lithium, and Fishing Chaos, Icon Boats, all the different people that make everything possible. So Joe, I'll uninvite you, and then you can come, and down there you can request to join. There should be a thing down at the bottom in like pink and blue that you can request to join, and then I can let you in too. There we go. I think that's it. Let's see if you see it now, Joe. So I'm waiting on Joe's trying to come in. He's using somebody else's login so he can get in. Joey can bring him in so he can talk about everything, because he's the one that knows everything about the situation. So while we wait on Joe to come in, he had called me today and said that, let me see. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm going to tell him how to log in here. Hold on let me see. Y'all give me 1 second. I'm going to tell him how to log in here. Hold on 1 second. All right, I had to call Joe to see try to get him in here. We'll get him to comment. I've never went in. I don't know how to go in somebody else's live. If some of y'all know how to request to join, y'all can comment and tell Joe how to request to join so that he can get in here. He's on a laptop. Let's see. All right, I just invited you there, Joe. Yeah, if y'all know how to request to join, y'all tell me, because I don't know. I'm always just doing the lives. I don't know how to join in somebody else's unless they send me an invitation to join. Spencer, I see you in here. Do you know how to request to join the live? Yeah, at the bottom, do you see, Joe, we're at the bottom where it says guest? Yeah, click guest at the bottom below the comment bar. Guest at the bottom below the comment bar. Hold on, let me. On a laptop, so I don't know if that makes a difference. Shouldn't make a difference on a laptop. I should have checked my laptop, so I'd know how to get in from a laptop. I know with a phone. I'm gonna send him a screenshot. A screenshot of what it looks like. Yeah, does that guest box show up on a laptop though? I mean, I see it on my phone. I just don't know what shows up on a laptop. Crappie bot, do you know? I see Mark McWall. He said none of that's on his screen. McWall. He said none of that's on his screen, so he can see that. Because it does, he sent me a video and it doesn't show on his phone. I mean, it doesn't show on his laptop. Should have bought a Nitro. By the way, we have 2 icons for sale. I want to sell one of them anyway. Got a white one and a black one. Mark, when are we going to be at Champlain? When are we going up north? Bought a Vexus. Nothing wrong with that. You know, I was talking to somebody today in the boat industry, and, you know, I never hate on other boats because boats are like vehicles. I mean, some people like Chevrolet, somebody like a Ford, some people like Dodge. I mean, everybody gets a vehicle or a boat to fit them. You know what I mean? So every boat has its purpose. Some people just like aluminum boats. Some people just like aluminum boats. Get him logged in on his phone. Let me tell Goob we're sending it on. Let me tell Goob we're sending it on. So, Goob, if you're in here, he's sending you another code. He's going to go in from his phone so that it shows that guest button. I guess it doesn't show on a computer. All right, Joe, he said sending the code now, Goob. So you should have another code. If you'll send that to me, I'll send it to him. I started to just go down there to Eufaula today to meet with Joe, but I had a bunch of stuff come up. Floyd Buckets, the cat, is sitting right over here somewhere. All right, it's Joe, it's 216-826. 216-826. Nobody can steal that since they don't know the number to use. Nobody can steal that since they don't know the number to use. Let me send it. Wanting him to verify his identity. If you're ready on the phone, Joe, go down there to where it says guest at the bottom left, and click on there. I'll invite you. I just invited you, and you should have an invitation on your phone, or it should have like a red one over the guest down there, or ask you if you want to join. Goob, he says he needs a new code. Yes, this is Durham from Eufaula. Yeah, if you've never used TikTok, like there's a lot to it sometimes till you get used to it. It took me a long time to get used to it. Goob, if you're still in here, he's saying it needs another code. It only gives him 60 seconds. He was asking for another code. Here, he's saying it needs another code. It only gives him 60 seconds. He was asking for another code. All right, I'm still trying to get Goob in here. Joe in here. We're trying to log in through another password so he can get in there. So I want him to be able to get in because I want him to be able to tell the story and tell us everything that's going on with the ABA. And Tim Hurst, I'm going to call you as soon as this is over because we are coming down to you this weekend with no practice. We're going to fish Logan Martin. Blake's got, he has strep throat, so we're waiting on him. He can't go practice or do anything, so hoping he'll be better by Saturday. I see Brookmo is in here. But I got Joe calling Goob so they can get all the passwords right and get him in. Yeah, I've heard we need to come to High Rock Lake and start taking some wake boats. Maybe Joe will be in here in a minute because after we did the video and after he put some stuff out about people that had checks bouncing from the ABA, he got more people to call him and more people had checks to bounce today. They just found out. They had went and looked, and sure enough, the checks had been returned. ABA is saying, well, they're still gonna have their championship. They're gonna start going. They're gonna start doing all cash, but it doesn't do you a lot of good to go all cash now if you don't pay the people that's already won. What kind of boats you getting scope fishing? I need to sell somebody an Icon. I have 2 of them. One of them needs to go. The Louisiana Bass Council. Every state needs a bass council. Yeah, maybe we'll get Joe in here in a few minutes. I should have tested this thing earlier. I've never been to High Rock ever, but around here, I mean, because I live on Wheeler, so I'm 50 minutes from Gunnersville, I'm 40 minutes from Pickwick, 30 minutes from Wilson, 35 minutes to Smith Lake. I mean, we have anything you want to fish just within 30 or 45 minutes. Let's see. Let me see if I can get. Joe, can you hear me?
Anything else, holler at me.
All right, thanks.
Joe, can you hear me, Joe? I can hear you.
Yeah, I'm working on trying to get my camera to work. I don't know why it's not wanting to log in.
You should be able to click the camera and go live, and it should show it. So, Bass and Ducks, you say your money was wired today. Did it go through? Like, did you get the money, or did they say they were wiring it today? Yeah, Joe, your mute button's on.
So I can get the mute off, and I'm trying. Like I said, when I hit the camera, it's just not to that. You know, live video as a guest. You could it says live access needed to go live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on that account, you got to have 1,000 followers for your video.
All right.
But that's okay. I got your picture up here anyway.
All right.
A guy just messaged in here, and let me see what he said. He said, AFT championship on Lake Murray, my check bounced 7 calls, and my money was wired today. We'll see tomorrow.
So if he got a wire, it should have, if it hit his account as a wire, it will likely be good. The question is, did they also send him whatever fees his bank charged him for the initial bounce?
Okay.
That's one of the main things that, that we need to know and want to know, because that's something they have not been doing. People are incurring all these fees with their banks, depositing checks that are returned, but they are then not paying them for the fees that they've incurred.
Yeah, he's saying he got confirmation, so that it was in there.
Well, that's one down, I guess, so to speak.
So, Joe, I'll let you tell everybody, kind of give them a recap on everything going on, because you delved more into it with everything going on. But kind of tell us what's going on with the ABA, and for the people that don't know, tell them what's going on, what's been going on, and what you think is going to happen.
Well, so the first thing is, ABA runs now, if you look at their website, they've got a variety of what they call different circuits. They list out some of the main ones are the Pro League, the Top 150 Solo, the Ray Scott Championship. One of their main ones is the AFT, or American Fishing Tour, and that was where they had the national championship at Murray. And about a year ago, that started getting word about checks bouncing and people not getting paid for tournaments, and we started looking into it. And the first thing that really got my attention is they had the Ray Scott Championship on Eufaula. And during the week leading up to it, knew a lot of people fishing it. Guys were talking about, hey, I hope the checks bounce. I hope they have the boat for the winter here, et cetera, et cetera. Well, they had roughly 110 people, I think, or 115 people show up. The winner got the boat. Thankfully, they had the boat. But the other 21 people that got checks, 2 through 16th or something like that, or whatever the number was, every check bounced but one. There's one check that did not bounce, and that check not bouncing is going to be a big deal, I'm afraid, as we go forward, and I'll come back and talk about that. And when they started explaining why the checks bounced, it was just a crazy explanation. Everything from they had been hacked to it was somebody forgot to move the money from the normal account to the Ray Scott account to our bank messed it up. And I mean, I literally have copies of 5 different messages from 5 different people whose check bounced that all give a different reason. So that, that's okay. Like, oh, that's something's going on. And a gentleman that finished in the top 5, he called to ask about his check bouncing, and they said, "Oh, we're sorry, we're going to get it sent to you." Well, 2 more weeks went by, nothing happened. He calls again, and the lady says, "Well, we don't even have you on the list as fishing or deserving a check or even getting a check in the tournament." He's like, "No, I fished. Look at the results." And she said, "Okay, well, we'll get the check out to you tomorrow." Well, of course, that didn't occur. A couple more weeks go by, he did finally get a check. And but of course, they didn't reimburse him for the bounce check fee that he got. And then we move forward here. They had the team championship on Santee Cooper. And as far as I know, everybody got paid there. Then they had the national championship and the military tournament back to back. And the military tournament was on West Point, not too far from me. And they only paid, well, they didn't pay back anything, but they got the entry fees and were set to pay back about 40% is all. But every check bounced. And so people started calling. And again, like everything else, they say, "Oh, we're going to send you a check. We're changing banks. We're doing this." I mean, literally, I can show you messages where Morris Sheehan has told people he's changing banks because of these problems they've had 6 months ago. And he told a reporter yesterday the same thing. It doesn't take 6 months to change a bank, first off. So a bunch of people at the military tournament still haven't gotten paid. They have shorted people money that they were owed when they sent them checks. So that's a big issue as well. So when that happened, we started really digging into it. And another guy local to here that I know really well had fished the national championship at Murray, and he hadn't gotten paid. He has still not gotten paid. And he kept calling. They said, "Oh, well, this is why you never gave us a W-9. Well, he sent the W-9 and stayed on the phone with them until they received it. This was 3 weeks ago, and he still hasn't had his check. And then the guy that won the tournament, a guy named Andy Wicker, winning the AFT National Championship, you get a boat. Well, they didn't have a boat at the tournament like they did for the Ray Scott. They handed him a certificate, or I'm assuming they handed it to him. I've seen a picture of it, a copy of it, that truly it looks like something a high school student made on the computer. And Slick, I'm sure you've seen the certificates that companies give out at tournaments. I mean, it's a nice thing that has details. It's this boat, this trailer, this motor, this whatever. And the certificate said to redeem your boat, to come to ABA's headquarters there in Athens, Alabama. Well, he, as I understand it, he called and said, "Hey, I want to come get the boat." And they were like, "Whoa, wait. Well, we don't actually have the boat, but it's in production. It'll be ready soon, and we'll let you know when." Well, he must be a pretty astute guy because he did the smart thing. He calls Camus again, as I understand it, and talks to them. And Camus is essentially like, "We have no idea what you're talking about." ABA and Morris Sheehan got 2 boats from us that they purchased from us earlier in the year for tournaments, but we hadn't heard anything else, don't know anything else, certainly don't have any boats in production for him. And that was, that's a big warning sign right there for a couple of reasons. One, obviously, I want Mr. Wicker to get his boat, but if you go back and read everything Morris has said, he sent that email out to the ABA members talking about how strong they were, and they're still committed to giving 2 boats away at the next AFT National Championship, which is only a couple of months away on Lake Eufaula again. It was on Murray because it had to be moved and rescheduled. But it's interesting to me, says he's going to give away 2 boats, but Camus doesn't know anything about it. Camus hadn't heard anything about that boat either. So started digging in a little more, and I learned that in one of the top 150 solos they had on Lake Gunnersville earlier this year. The winner was Tucker Smith. Second place was a guy, Hayden Odell, I think's his name.
Hayden Obar.
Obar, I'm sorry, yeah. And as I understand it, I know Tucker Smith has not been paid. They bounced multiple checks to him. And then Hayden hadn't been paid either. So there's just a long list of people going that far back. And then today I found out from the Pro League tournament that they had on Lake Lanier earlier, just a few weeks ago, that a gentleman that finished third in it, he got word today that his check bounced. So the sheer number of checks, the sheer number of individuals that have received bounce checks, and then the sheer dollar figures are just astounding. And I'm still scratching the surface. There's no telling what we're going to find as we continue to dig forward, because literally I'm getting a call every single day about it.
Let me ask you this, for the people that do have bounce checks, where does this go? Like, for instance, if they just fold up and file bankruptcy, are the people just out their money, or is because this is fraud that they can't bankrupt fraud, or where does this go?
So that you make a good point there. So under the law, when you bounce a check, it is by definition called deposit account fraud. And you cannot bankrupt anything on fraud. However, my biggest thing is that people don't need to sit on their hands and think, oh, ABA is going to make it right, or it's not a big deal. You better get in line, because even if they bankrupt, there is an order that is established of who's in order to get money. And if you hadn't made a claim, hadn't done anything, you're going to be sucking hind tits, so to speak, on that. And the other part is, I will say this, one of the things we have done, and I saw one of the comments here, is bouncing checks is a crime. There's no doubt about it. Every state has different dollar figures. But once it crosses a certain threshold, it becomes a felony. We have just today finished a report that we're sending to the Attorney General for the state of Alabama and to the Attorney General for the state of Georgia that details all of everything we have. And I think that is important here, because you have to look at, let's just take the military tournament there. All of that money together that they wrote checks to, and here, they knew they were bad. And that's what's so frustrating here. If they say, oh, it was an internal processing error, or it was this, or it was that, or a banking error. Yeah, it was a damn banking error. It was an error. You wrote a check out of an account you knew did not have money in it. Yeah. And that's, again, the different number of tournaments that this has happened in, too, is just, again, amazing. And there's no telling how many more people are out there, because every day I'm learning more and more and getting more and more calls about it. So I hope that aside from recovering money from people, I hope that the proper law enforcement agencies will look into this, because this is wrong. And it's straight up fraud. That's what it is. It is straight up fraud.
So with the guys, like, let's just say they get in line, and I mean, this obviously it doesn't look good unless there's a major influx in cash from somewhere. That's highly unlikely. And let's just say that they do say, okay, we're closing the doors. I mean, at that point, I guess you're just at the mercy of
the bankruptcy process. You know, we don't know how many creditors there are of ABA, but I would submit that every single person that has received a check that didn't clear, that is owed money, and everyone that got one that bounced, but they did not pay them the fees that they incurred, everyone is a creditor of ABA right now. And I would bet dollar to donuts that ABA is technically insolvent right now, because I guarantee you they don't have the cash on hand to satisfy these debts to everyone. Because if they did, they'd pay them. End of story. The gentleman that got his wire today, that's what I've said all the time, waiting on them to get paid, is just wire it. And as I look in the comments here from Bass and Ducks 30, it says Morris said a $25K deposit was held by his bank, causing it for Murray. Well, that doesn't make sense, because for a lot of these tournaments, remember, there are entry fees paid here. So they had the money to cover the cash payments for the checks. Again, I'll use the military tournament right now. They took in entry fees that were approximately, I think it's $8,700 to be exact, if that's the right number of votes. They've only paid out a total of like $4,000. So where's the rest of the money? Don't give us an excuse that, oh, Troup County hadn't paid this, or the bank put a hold on this. No, you had the money that was for this tournament. It was earmarked, or should have been earmarked, for this tournament. And I believe that we're going to file amended complaints, or one of the counts is going to be for conversion, which conversion is when you take something that someone else's and make it yours. They've converted this money and using it for inappropriate purposes.
Well, I know Nick put in here restitution is not guaranteed money, and I guess like even if you get, this goes through and you're supposed to have restitution and they're supposed to pay you, you still got a process there of hoping that you get paid after that happens.
Absolutely. So restitution comes through more of the the criminal side. That's what would happen through the civil side. The way we're going to look at it is we're sending out formal letters that allow for very specific penalties, that if they don't pay not only the amount owed for all the fees and everything else within 10 days, and then they can be really heavily penalized for all attorney's fees, costs, and significant penalties. And that's why I want everyone, now is the time to act, or you're going to get left out in the cold, so to speak.
I got another question, that goes back to membership fees, right? They're charging membership fees for the ABA, but then they're not following through with what they're promising. So, I mean, this could go as far as them having to give membership fees back too, right?
Yes. So one of the things that I think is really important here, when you sign up for ABA, you're a member. And if you read their website, and I've been through it 1,000 times, and they've changed it a lot because at different times they've learned, as we've been going through this, some of the things that I'm attacking. But you become a member. But one thing you don't have to agree to is, if you join let's just say even a hunting club sometimes, or a country club, something like that, you have to agree to these policies, procedures. This is how the club's organized and run. Well, they don't have any of that. So you pay that membership fee, and they owe a duty to the members, what we call a fiduciary duty, which means they have to put the interest of the members ahead of their own personal interests. And they clearly haven't done that. And that's something we're going to be filing suit additional claims on. And I'm going to ask the court to place the entire company into what we call a receivership. And what that is the court appoints normally a lawyer or an accountant, and that person is the, quote, receiver that essentially takes over complete management of the company. The company cannot spend a dime, cannot do anything without the receiver approving it. And the receiver will go through and determine, exactly what's going on and where we are.
Do you think that's why, here Dusty has said, that they went to all cash payouts? So if there is a receivership put in place, if they're taking cash at tournaments, then what does that do?
The idea of cash only is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever heard. So let's assume you take one of these tournaments they have where it's a $400 or $500 entry fee or whatever it is for like the 150 solos. And let's say you have 100 boats. Let's just say, and hypothetically, it's 100 boats at $400 per. Was the tournament director going to keep that $40,000 cash in his pocket, in his truck, in his boat? I mean, that creates a significant security risk. Not to count for how in the world, what's the IRS going to say about that? So that puts the anglers back in a terrible situation. To me, that is nothing but an excuse on them. It's an attempt to buy time. Everything that ABA has put out, if you look at it, is an attempt to buy time. We're putting in these new policies. We're determined to do this. No hard proof, no facts, no specifics. It's just like Mr. Sheehan says that he's personally handling these things. Well, if he's personally handling them, why have I called over there 15 times in the last 2 weeks for clients of mine and not a single person's ever called back?
That's what I was going to ask you was, are they speaking to you? Have you spoke to them?
I have not spoken with them until this is what happened. Last week I kept calling, and I will tell you, I sent text messages to Morris Sheehan, voicemails to him, and called the home office every time for every client because I wanted to make sure they knew who I was representing and to know not to contact my clients and not to then try to hurry and send them checks, because that's what I figured they'd do. They'd just start trying to pick off everyone I was representing. And I was worried people would cash the checks and not understand that they are owed more than just the check amount now. So I never heard from anyone. So this week, when we decided to file the first suit, I called I looked on the Secretary of State and already knew this, that in Georgia, ABA's registered agent is, I think it's Billy Benevetti is his name. I don't know him. I know lots of fishermen that know him, and they've all said he's a heck of a nice guy. And so I called him. He was shocked to learn that he was the registered agent. I had no idea. He really didn't appreciate what that meant. So what I had to do, I actually sent him a link to the Secretary of State and emailed him the thing and said, I have to serve you. You're the person for the state of Georgia that sort of went through what a registered agent is. And he didn't know that. And then only after that, I got an email from Morris Sheehan saying that he would like to talk to me tomorrow. So we'll see what happens. My past dealings with him are such that, unfortunately, I put zero stock in his word, because as like I said, I've been investigating ABA on a number of things related to this for a while, and he's been supposed to get me information and get back with me multiple times and never did.
Well, Bass and Ducks is the second person on here that said he's called them and they've asked, did he have an attorney? And Nick asked, do you have a roundabout figure, just an estimation of how much money's owed right now?
Well over 100,000.
Wow. Is that including the boat, or is
that does include, there's actually, I think, multiple boats that are owed. I'm trying to track that down, but I know the one that even if you back out that boat, it is still an astounding number, because just for example, with that Gunnersville tournament that I was talking about earlier, there's well over 20 grand just for that single tournament that's owed. And then if you think about the checks that have bounced, if they pay the service fees like they should, well, that's going to be $30 to $75 for each and every check that has to be paid as well. So the numbers are they're significant. And I want to get to the bottom of it, because I had someone tell me earlier that there's a whole group of guys out in Texas that same thing with ABA, hadn't been getting paid and checks have been bouncing. And those people obviously aren't close to where you and I are physically located. So I don't know that they've quite knew that all this was going on. So I'm hoping I can hear from them, you know.
So with this crossing state lines, does that mean anything different with it being in multiple states or not?
It can. So, you know, everyone talks about class action lawsuits, and that's one of the things we're really looking at. And I fully expect to file a class action lawsuit that, if nothing else, when you bounce a check and commit deposit fraud, you should pay the people any costs they incurred in collecting the money, obviously the amount of money they're owed, plus the fees. So everyone has that exact claim. So when we see what the numbers are, and from so many different states, because I can only begin to imagine how many different states we're going to be looking at here, that a class action is by far the most economic and best streamlined way to do that, to put everybody together to get it done. But I can help anyone get this process going. If they don't want to talk to me, don't like me, don't whatever, the one thing they can always do is contact their local sheriff's department, you know, because it is a crime. Even if it's a small amount, it's a misdemeanor, but it's still a crime. And something's got to be done, because it is frustrating to me to see Morris Sheehan trying to tell people how ABA is still strong and he's still committed to giving these boats out, when there is clearly, Camus knows nothing about these boats. That tournament's not that far away. It's only, 3 months away, 4 months away, and we know what's going to happen. They're just trying to buy time, and every time they can get more people to fish, they're just trying to either line their pockets or pay wherever the money's going and pay it back, because ultimately all this is right now is a Ponzi scheme. That's exactly what is going on here. It's a Ponzi scheme.
Yeah, could you imagine, somebody just put in here, could you imagine like not having a boat, but winning a boat, the boat of your dreams, and then you don't really have a boat?
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, one of the things we'll do next in the lawsuits I filed are what we call discovery, which is where we're able to subpoena all sorts of documents. So I am and tomorrow I expect to start serving all those subpoenas. You know, Regions Bank is one of the banks where a lot of the checks were bounced. Independent Bank is another one. So I'm eager to get all of those records. And again, they talk about transparency. I don't know why they won't show everyone, you know, redact their account number or the account number's on a damn check. Show us this is how much money was in the account at the time. Tell us what was if it's truly if it's truly an internal problem, what was the internal problem? Tell us what it is. Don't use just, you know, glossy words without getting into specifics. So it's going to be bad. I mean, and I hate it because for a lot of years, ABA was a good organization.
Yeah.
People also need to remember this. So years ago, probably 20 years ago, ABA had their team series and they had a championship and they had promised all the advertisements all year were the championship of the team series is going to get a fully rigged boat. I don't remember what the make and model was or whatever, but it was a fully rigged boat. Well, they get to the championship and they tell them, oh, we're not giving away a boat. We're only giving away $5,000. Not only that, they wouldn't refund any entry fees for people that weren't interested in keeping the fish because of that either. I mean, that was, to me, that was classic fraud back then. And right after that, they shut the team series down for a while, and they just brought it back last year.
Yeah, I remember with the team series, they used to guarantee 5,000 at every tournament, no matter how many people they had.
Yep, that's exactly right, but not anymore. Or I guess you could say it's like they guaranteed the winner of the tournament there at Murray a boat, but it's one of the things I guess they were just bullshitting about that maybe, you know?
Man, I mean, I couldn't imagine thinking that I've won a boat and like the certificate being fraudulent.
No, I couldn't either. It was really, I should say shocking, but it wasn't shocking to me because of everything that I know for the people at Camus to say, yeah, we had no idea about this. And you go back and you look at Camus owned by Earl. I mean, Earl and Morris have been tight for a long time because before it was Camus, it was Triton that was everything, locked in with ABA. I hate to see companies that, I think are good companies, TH Marine, some of the others that are, these frontline sponsors for an organization that is screwing people and just flat out stealing from anglers. And one of the other things that I have put in the cases is, these gentlemen come down, they fish for a week to practice for a big tournament, championship tournaments. They need to be reimbursed as part of the fraud, all the time they took off work, all the expenses they put into that, as well as what they were, is what they're still owed as of today.
Yeah, this has damaged the reputation of the directors,
Bad. And I will, like I said, going back to that Billy Benedetti, I don't know him personally, but everyone has told me he does a heck of a job and is a heck of a good guy. There are some directors, I think, that would hear that. I mean, I've got messages from a couple of them it's amazing. And what I want to know is, do these directors, did they know what they were saying was false, or are they just relaying what they were told to the anglers that, haven't gotten paid or didn't get paid?
Wow.
So we're going to find out. And I think one thing that everyone should expect, we're going to turn over every stone and get to the bottom of it. And I saw one of the gentlemen posted a comment that said, will we be able to get the bank statements? And the answer to that's absolutely yes, we will. They may try to fight us, but considering the law, I see absolutely no way they could get around us getting the bank statements. And in that regard, we're entitled to know why the checks bounced. And we are in the position now where Mr. Sheehan is saying it was due to some internal error, not due to a lack of money. So we need to go and verify what he's saying, because if what he is saying is not true and these checks were written and it's clear that it's not money, that's fraud on top of fraud. And they're just digging a deeper hole that's just going to make things worse.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like it's going downhill fast because I mean, we heard about it a lot, not a lot, but you heard about it earlier in the year and then it kind of went away. Um, and then it seems to have gotten worse and worse.
It's definitely. I mean, when you have three, you think about it. There are three championship tournaments: the Ray Scott, the military tournament, and the AFT championship. And each and every check at all of those bounces. I mean, that's as bad as it gets.
Yeah.
So I don't. I mean, I love to fish as much as the next guy, probably more than a lot of people. But how in the world do you justify putting time, energy, and resources into trying to qualify for some classic or something that's likely never going to occur? And if it does occur, your the likelihood of getting paid like you should is small.
Astronauts made a point here about the Palestine event trying to qualify for Ultimate Angler. It was the same way for us. We were going to go down to Harris Chain this weekend just to qualify for Ultimate Angler, knowing that we probably weren't going to get any money.
Right.
You weren't worried about getting paid because you feel like now, if you do win something, you're not going to get any money from it.
Yep. It's bad. It's bad to be in that position. That's for sure. And another thing that tells me we're dealing with real financial issues is if you look at their payback scale over the last few years, they have steadily decreased the payback scale significantly. And, that was one of the things in the military tournament that they said, we used the wrong scale. Well, I've gone back and done the calculations on the things I can get from their website, but I'm also requesting it from them. Why have they gone and cut it back? I mean, look, how can you, on what planet is it fair to have a championship tournament where your payback is something like 40%?
That's what I was going to say. I looked at the numbers. Now, this is what I've got so far. The payback was like 4,300 total, and they brought in like 8,800, whatever 58 boats times 150 is. That's what they brought in.
Yep.
They paid back 4,300, I think, total. I know first place was 1,300, but every check bounced.
Right. Well, they hadn't paid back really any yet, and that's for the winners. So they paid them, and this is again just shows either. I think it's intentional, but if not, it's not intentional. It's incredibly sloppy. If you go to their website right now and pull up the results from the military tournament, it'll show that Chad Artis and Bud Bowman were the winners and that they were paid $1,900. Well, the truth is, as of today, they've not been paid anything. They were given a check for $1,500 rather than $1,900 that bounced, and then they tried to give them another one that was for $1,300 rather than $1,900. And I have no idea what what ABA is thinking, what they're doing. But again, to me, it's all, it's not incompetence, it's intentional fraud. That's the only way you could get to the level we're at with the sheer number of checks, the sheer number of different circuits where it's happened, and so many times. It has to be a systemic fraud issue.
So Morris is supposed to talk to you tomorrow?
Yep, that's what he said. I'll believe it when I see it.
I was going to say, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't either. But I mean, at this point, I will say the two gentlemen that we filed the lawsuit for are both veterans. And look, you and I talked about this on the phone the other day, but it's all offensive and disgusting anyway. But you take veterans and active duty armed forces people that don't get a lot of leave anyway, and they decide to take a 1 week leave to go fish a tournament. They get a check, and the organization's not good enough to even make sure that their check is good. And then when it bounces, doesn't swiftly address it. That tells you all you need to know right there. So, one of the gentlemen said, "Why have only 2 people filed?" The answer to that is just time and manpower. In some ways, I mean, we're getting so many calls, and before I can file suit for someone, I have to go through the formal process. I have to have them, sign contract. I have to have them get me copies of everything. And so what I'm hoping that we're going to do here eventually, what I would love is that ABA, that I'd talked to Morris tomorrow, and he said, this is what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to send you a list of every check that is bounced, and we're going to have everyone paid by wire for everything they're owed, plus the penalties they're owed. We're going to have it done by Monday. Now, that's not going to happen, but that's what I'd love. And I hope that there are people that we don't have to file suit for, but I don't see that occurring as things go forward.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope everybody gets their money, and I especially hope the guys get their boats. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. But I'm like a grizzly bear, on things. So we're not going to go away quietly on this. And we've got.
Mark Owen said that Morris is actually a veteran. I didn't know that.
Yeah, I actually have a copy of the letter that he sent out detailing. Who was eligible, and he has always been very big in the armed forces and supporting veterans. And that's what's so shocking to me here is, if veterans are really important to him and it was true and, really close to his heart, why in the world are we here where we are months later and it still hasn't been fixed? The delay in fixing it is that's another telltale sign that they don't have the money.
Yeah, and I want to say something to people about what's going on. Number one, this used to be one of the best organizations in the country. A lot of people have fished this organization. It was one of the biggest organizations in the country at one time. My buddy Nick Nashby, he won a weekend series here on Wheeler. Their weekend series was awesome. The ABAs, have been great for your local tournament fishermen for years. It's been incredible. They've done a lot for veterans. And that's why it's kind of shocking now to be going through what they're doing. It just doesn't make sense. I know they had some trouble 10, 12 years ago, whenever it was, but since then it's been decent. And so now it's kind of shocking to see them on this path.
And there are things still that I don't need to put out there, for different reasons, but there's just a lot going on here. And when the rest of it comes out publicly, look, I hope they survive, but it clearly can't survive in its current structure, and the members are just getting screwed. And I see somebody ask, is it a nonprofit? Actually, it's not. It is a for-profit organization. It is a for-profit corporation. So we'll see what happens. The finances will be here, and I think the members deserve to know where their money's going, how it's being spent, how it's being used or abused, so we can get to the bottom of this and hopefully one day get the organization under new leadership or running in a way that will benefit people, and it can go back to being something that's really good for the weekend angler, which is what I am. That's what I am, and that's what I want to see.
Joe, I'm going to ask this question that I know you don't know the answer to, because you and I have talked about it before, but many people have asked, where's the money going? Like, we know the money's going in there for entry fees, for memberships. Somebody's got to be misappropriating those funds or taking that money, right?
It's gone somewhere. And one of the great things, though, about lawsuits and litigation that involve money is easy to trace, because these entry fees will have been paid by credit card, debit card, checks, for these big tournaments. We'll be able to see dollar for dollar and follow it all the way through. And I've already engaged a forensic team that's helping, that's ready to help on this. Because this is not just about getting the people paid. We, as members, everyone deserves to know what's going on, how did we get here.
Absolutely.
So I'm as eager as anyone else can be to get to the answer to that and to find out. And I assure you, as soon as I have an answer, I'll continue to let everyone know.
Well, thank you for what you're doing, and hopefully I get some word tomorrow, and maybe Morris will talk to you. I think that'll be a big first step.
Oh, it will be. And I will say this here. If Morris is willing to get on the phone with me and is willing to truly be transparent about where we are, how we got here, and where we're going, we'll stall the lawsuits. We will stay them right now so they don't have to get lawyers and spend that money. Because honestly, I'd rather them spend that money on making anglers whole. That's what I want.
So Joe, I was going to say this. Like, I feel like if Morris didn't spew the same bullshit he's been spewing about, oh, it's a bank issue, our bank's messed up. If he called you and said, dude, we don't have the damn money, and I'm going to try to get everybody their money, but I don't have it. Let me work on it. Okay, we can go forward and try to work something out and try to figure it out. But, you know, that's the thing, is being transparent and saying, hey, I ain't got it. We screwed up. Whatever the problem is, we're going to try to fix this. But I feel like just spewing the same stuff about, oh, it's the bank messed up, or we need to swap banks, all that's going to do is cost him more money.
That is exactly right. And that's what's kind of, quite frankly, pissed me off so bad here, is because I know some of this is not true. And, you know, you and I were talking the other day about issues in the fishing industry and cash flow issues that companies have at different times of the year and everything. And any business can have cash flow issues. So, you know, if he picked up the phone and said, look, or would do an open email letter, we are in a cash flow crunch. We had unexpected expenses. We had this, we had that. We don't have the money, but we are working on it. You're right. I think everyone would be patient and we would be understanding, because, again, people want the organization to survive. In an ideal world, that is it. It makes it through a difficult time and gets back to being strong, where it can thrive and be available for everyone. But when you come out and say, oh, no, we're strong, and he said all these trails for next year are already fully supported, was his exact phrase. Now, I don't know what the hell that means, fully supported, but does that mean he already has the money for them? I mean, if he doesn't give me the transparency things that I want, those are the sort of questions he's going to have to give very clear answers to when he has to raise his right hand and give me his testimony which won't be very far away.
Yeah, I mean, I know people are saying, hey, we need to make an example out of him. We need to do all this stuff. And if he's not transparent about it and honest about it, I agree. What I'm saying is, yeah, we can go after him and try to go get the money, but you can't get blood out of a turnip, okay? If they don't have it, they don't have it. So, you know, then trying to get it is a lot harder than saying, okay, tell us the truth and let's try to figure something out.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And, you know, with the military thing, one of the things that, again, offended me is Morris tried to blame Troup County. Tried to say, oh, well, they hadn't paid us the money that they have agreed to pay us. Well, again, they took the money for the payout comes from the entry fees. So Troup County, doesn't matter what they're supposed to do, that doesn't have anything to do with the anglers. The anglers' money was put in as entry fees, and they're paid out of that. So I do not understand why we're in this issue. And I do know that there are some disputes going on with ABA and various municipalities, that ABA, when they sign contracts with some counties, or, you know, what I call quasi municipalities, you know, organizations, that they've made guarantees that have X number of boats, and they have had terrible turnout. Well, one of the reasons they've had terrible turnout is the stuff we have going on right here. You know, it's a pretty small fishing community. And so I know some of the counties and city governments are not wanting to pay. You know, if you promised us 200 boats, but you only brought 100, we're not going to pay you the 200, the figure based on 200. We're going to prorate it down to 50% of it. And so I hear there's some things going on there.
Somebody asking here, what if they're in the process of suing the bank and their lawyers are saying not to speak? Well, I can tell you, if they had attorneys that were doing something like that, they would be speaking to this attorney.
They would have called me immediately. They'd have never let it get to this point.
Yeah.
And so, like Regions Bank, based out of Alabama, a large organization that I had litigated before I represented people more. I represent the institutions and large corporations. I have litigated with the lawyers that represent regions a lot of times. I know them. I still have to deal with them when I'm requesting records. If this was Region Bank's fault, and especially ABNA based in Alabama, they'd raise their hand. They'd say, we screwed up, and I can tell you this right now, that Regions Bank is going to make this right, and everybody that was charged $30 or whatever by your bank, Regions Bank is going to cover that for you. And that's not what's going to happen. I see right here somebody, Bass and Dutch 30, Bank Independent. That's right. That's one of the newer banks they've been using. But those checks have bounced as well. So I guess that every bank that ABA uses for some reason all have these errors causing this.
Well, maybe we can get to the bottom of it. I hope Morris talks to you tomorrow.
I hope so too, and I'll keep you posted. And just I hope everybody that's watched, and you've got a large following and a big group out there. If you know anybody that has been that has owed money, know anyone that got a check bounced, but they end up paying the amount, make them pay you. Do what's right to pay you everything you're owed. So and put them in touch with me so we can do this and go from there.
I agree. Well, thank you, Joe. I appreciate you taking the time to inform everybody and tell everybody what's going on, because I get messages about this every day, about the ABA, and I knew that you were involved in it more than anybody. So.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I said, let's try to get scheduled to go fishing in the next week or so if we can.
That sounds good to me.
All right, buddy. I'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.